Tendremos el informe sobre los comercios en la calle WWY Road dentro de poco. Mientras tanto, con el propósito de ofrecer mejor protección policial, el Departamento de la Policía está construyendo varias subestaciones que, según Andrés Ricardo Morín, abarcarán todas las principales áreas de la ciudad.
El Parque McAllister ha sido designado como el sitio donde se construirá la próxima subestación de policía a un costo de 1.4 millones de dólares, dinero que será utilizado de la emisión de bonos aprobada en 1980. El jefe de policía, Charles Rodríguez, nos informó que será otro lugar conveniente para los ciudadanos que con frecuencia tienen problemas en llegar hasta el cuartel general en el centro.
Gente ahorita no quiere llegar aquí al centro porque está muy congestionado, no hay donde estacionarse uno, no quieren llegar al centro.
El nuevo edificio estará concluido para mayo de 1986 y será el primero de 4 subestaciones con el propósito de descentralizar el departamento de policía. Este parque de la ciudad es poco utilizado por el público, casi expresamente para correr en vez de pasar días de campo. Una de las subestaciones ya en funcionamiento es la de Culebra Road, que cubre el cuadrante oeste de la ciudad. En esta dependencia hay solo patrulleros, pero con el tiempo se incluirá a detectives y probablemente un laboratorio. Las subestaciones contarán con suficiente personal, según el jefe Rodríguez.
En el norte yo creo que va a ser bastante grande, de 150 patrulleros por ahí, 125. En el este va a ser un poquito más chico.
Andrés Ricardo Morín, reporter 41.
Además de la subestación del norte, habrá otra en el área de la calle Martin Luther King y otra cerca de la Zarzamora y la intersección con la Southwest Military Drive.
Our city now has 44 more police officers, that after graduating the largest cadet class ever today. The new officers will fill vacancies in the department, but they will also bring the SAPD a little closer to the city's affirmative action goals. Sharon Jones was at the ceremony today for the cadets. She says graduation fulfilled a dream for many of them.
Just making it through 6 months of rigorous police training is a goal in itself for the 44 who got their police shields today. The ceremony started off with an inspection of the new ranks by Chief Charles Rodriguez. The ceremony reflected a lot of pride by police brass. Also beaming were top city officials, long anxious to get more minorities on the police force. This class comprised a large number of minorities, including 10 women. That's the largest number of women officers to make it out of the academy in police history. Affirmative action goals aside, being a police officer is a personal goal for some of these women. Take 32-year-old Deborah Gooch, mother of 4.
Oh, this is great. This is a lifetime dream for me.
Do you have any reservations as a woman going out in that squad car this weekend or Monday and going out to protect the community?
Well, I think for any woman, especially my size, there's always some kind of apprehension, but we've been trained.
It's going to be like getting back home because I was in law enforcement before and I've been out of it for 2 years now, so it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice to get behind that wheel again.
Interesting enough, Officer Leon was in law enforcement in California several years ago. She was also the top marksman in this class. Men and women alike, these new officers say they're ready and eager to meet their new challenges. They hit the streets of San Antonio on Monday. David?
44 new people. Does this bring them up to the strength that they would like ideally, Sharon?
Not exactly. What these 44 officers will do will fill vacancies that were created in 83 and 84. This does not account for the 46 new officers that the San Antonio Police Department has budgeted for 84 and 85. Those will be filled by another class that started recently.
You said a lot of minorities in this group. How close are they now to their affirmative action goal?
Well, that's a little difficult to say. They had come under fire because they had not hired enough blacks and enough women. Obviously, we saw a lot of women graduate today. The next class that's coming up, police officials say, will reflect a very intense effort to get black applicants on the police force.
And this new group starts Monday?
Starts Monday. Some start on dog watch, which is midnight to 8, some 3 to 11.
All right. Thanks very much.
And the largest cadet class ever to pass through the police department's training academy also were graduated today. Frank Guerra has that story.
It was the record graduating class of 44 cadets, each in uniform, ready for inspection outside the Beethoven Hall at Hemisphere Plaza.
I get the feeling sometimes that we may even have the next chief of police in that class.
Once inside, the cadets, their families, and a host of dignitaries listened as City Manager Lou Fox spoke of dignity, self-worth, and the commitment to excellence.
It involves education, it involves training, it involves experience on one hand, and on the personal side, you deal with motivation, sensitivity, and most importantly, a sense of self-worth.
Then followed other speeches and awards, and finally the handing of diplomas, all capped by the officer's oath.
Congratulations to all of you.
Outside, families hugged and photographed and kissed.
You got lipstick on your cheek.
Yes, sir. The family's been giving me kisses, congratulating me.
20 minutes ago, you were a cadet. Now you're a police officer. It's quite a difference, quite a different feeling.
I know it's going to be a big challenge, but I'm ready to face it.
And there they stood, side by side, ready for their official class picture, something to look back on in the years to come.
1, 2, 3. One more.
Frank Guerra, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
The police department's largest cadet class ever graduated in a colorful ceremony at Hemisphere Plaza today. KSAT 12 Police Beat reporter Mary Walker says some of the new officers will hit the streets as soon as tomorrow.
When they started training for the privilege of wearing this uniform 6 months ago, there were 52 of them. But officials say it was no easy task, and 8 cadets dropped out. But the 44 left, they believe, are ready to serve the citizens of San Antonio. Chief Charles Rodriguez made sure of that in his final inspection of the troops. The ceremony inside was lengthy, but San Antonio's newest officers didn't seem to mind. For them and their families, it was a day of pride, and their speaker reminded them of that.
And you now have the opportunity to serve almost 1 million people. You have an opportunity to continue to serve your families and your friends, and you also have an opportunity to continue to serve yourself.
Honors went to top officers, and then, one by one, San Antonio's latest batch of men in blue, which included 10 women, paraded across the stage for their diplomas. And finally, they were sworn in.
As I was taking the oath, I got all choked up because I realized that it's all over, but yet it's just begun.
Well, it's one of the happiest days of my life, and I'm real happy about it. It's kind of hard to describe what I feel right now, but I feel satisfied.
For Heidi Hoff and her dad, Police Sergeant Duke Hoff, it was a particularly proud moment.
I did encourage her to come down there, but I'm damn proud she's there, and she's done well. She'll be a good cop.
I think he's given me the most support, him and my mom, and I couldn't have come through it without it, and I know I put them through a lot, but they helped me.
Tomorrow, the police cadets of Class 84B will officially become rookie officers. Mary Walker, KSAT 12 News.
We'd like to go back to City Hall Live with Jibby Martinez to talk with police officials about some information that was relayed to her from the mayor concerning hits on Oreste's house. Jibby?
No, Sharon, what it was the mayor saying that apparently Oreste's quote-unquote goons have been assigned to hit his house, to harass him. We have with us the police chief. Chief Rodriguez, can you tell us what information you have received?
Well, we received information from sources that received information from other sources, which is very indirect. Some here say that there was a threat against the mayor. One had to do with harassment, the other had to do with possible bodily harm.
Now, the mayor says that one of the people on that list is an aide to Bernardo Oreste. Can you confirm that?
No, I can't. The list that I saw names, but I don't know the names.
Now, what about charges for terroristic threats? Is the mayor indicating he will be filing any of those charges? Or
no, there isn't anything that we can do now. I don't think any direct threats have been made. But apparently there has been that kind of an activity going on.
Any extra security?
Yes, we're going to have cars patrolling in and around his neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Rodriguez. I'm Jibby Martinez, live from City Hall.
Okay, Jibby, thank you very much for clarifying that.
Bob, I hate to tell you this, but he has changed his mind once again, and he has backed down from that earlier statement. Right now, Bernardo Oreste is with his wife, and he is at his attorney's office. He is rethinking what he told us earlier. But in the meantime, just in the last 30 minutes, there's been another new development here at City Hall. Just a few minutes ago, reporters were questioning Mayor Henry Cisneros about Bernardo Oreste's latest decision, the latest thing where he said that he would quit the city council and that he would no longer run for office. At that time, the mayor pointed out to us that this afternoon, the police chief told him that a gang of 4 men had been named as being told to physically harass the mayor, and that is the latest development. The mayor says that out of all of this, now he has become a target and that there are people out there who have been asked to harass him. With me is Police Chief Charles Rodriguez. What information do you have regarding threats against the mayor or possible harassment against him or any other council member?
Well, we've had indirect information, indirect meaning that it came from sources other than the people that gave it to me, that there was a move to harass the mayor, and in one case, possibly cause him bodily harm.
What are you doing about this? Are you taking extra precautions to protect the mayor?
Well, as in all cases, we're concerned with the safety of the mayor and members of the council, and we routinely act on situations like this, and what we're doing is increasing our patrol in and around the mayor's home.
According to your information, who's behind this? Who's putting these people up to harassing the mayor, possibly hurting him?
Well, that's confidential information that I don't think we want to release.
How many people are there out to get him at this point?
Well, I gave the mayor a list of 4, but I can't say for sure because this is all hearsay or indirect information. I can tell you for sure. I don't know the names and I don't know the individuals on the list that I gave him, so I can't tell you.
Are these threats against just the mayor, or does it include his family and other council members?
Just the mayor, as far as we can tell.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Rodriguez. So at this point, extra patrols have been put around the mayor because of these threats and because of the information that they have been given. Now, back to Bernardo Oreste. At this point, he is with his attorney and his wife. They are talking about his possible resignation.
This recent Cisneros-Ureste feud has degenerated to the point where police are taking seriously threats against the mayor. 4 men, reportedly Ureste supporters, are being investigated for threatening the safety of Cisneros and his family. John Kirby has more.
The mayor reacted swiftly and angrily to reports that he and his family might be in danger.
But I can tell you, if he scares those daughters of mine or touches one hair on their head.
Councilman Bernardo Ureste reacted just as swiftly, calling those reports nonsense.
Nobody's out to hit him. Nobody's out to hit his house. Nobody's out to do anything to him. You know, Henry Cisneros and I have different views on politics, and we get heated up about that.
But law enforcement officials are taking the threats seriously enough to look into them. Security around the mayor and his home and family have been beefed up. If Ureste's supporters or anyone else are after the mayor, then the police and company want to be on top of the situation.
I think it's important that we act on every bit of information we get.
If the chief of police makes the determination that charges should be filed, that will be done. That's not something, obviously, that's been done at this point.
The investigation begins immediately, say police, and will continue until the matter is resolved. John Kirby, KSAT 12 News, tonight.
I'm Dan Cuellar. Tonight, big changes could be in store for anyone who drives a car in Texas.
Lawmakers in Austin are now talking about making it mandatory for you and your family to buckle up when you ride on streets and highways in our state. News 4 reporter Candace Ferrone has been working on this story. She's in the newsroom with more. Candace?
Sharon, a bill was introduced to the legislature today that would require you to wear your seatbelt every time you drive your car. Now, if approved, the law would make it necessary for everyone in the front seat of a car to buckle up. Only pickup trucks would be exempt. Now, here in San Antonio, our police chief, Charles Rodriguez, spoke to the SA School District PTA Council on this subject, and he favors the law.
There have been a number of very serious accidents that have been less serious, primarily because people were wearing seat belts. So I am supportive of the seat belt legislation for that reason.
To be specific, in 1984, 162 people were killed in traffic accidents in San Antonio. Out of those 162, only 2 were wearing their seatbelts. We asked some San Antonio drivers this afternoon how they would feel about a mandatory seatbelt law.
Seatbelts are mandatory in most of Europe, so only the United States is behind the times.
I'm all for it. I don't have mine on right now, but I usually do wear my seatbelt, and I think it would be good.
It would suit me, only I never used one, but I'd be glad to start if they make it that way.
Recently, we did 2 telepolls. We asked viewers if they normally wear their seatbelts. 64% said yes, 36% said no. The other question, should Texas adopt a mandatory seatbelt law? It was 50-50. And in case you didn't notice, none of those we spoke with today had their seatbelts on, even though they all said they'd support the law. So if passed, it'll be interesting to see if this law mimics the 55-mile-per-hour law. Also, people support that law. Most of them do, but statistics indicate they don't obey it. Sharon?
Candace, if this law is passed, when will it go into effect, and what's the penalty going to be for if we don't wear our seatbelts?
Well, if passed, it would go into effect September the 1st, but police wouldn't begin levying fines until December 1 to allow for a state education driver campaign. Now, the fines for breaking the law would range between $25 and $50.
Okay, it'll be interesting to watch. Thank you, Candace.
Our police chief is fond of saying if more people would get involved instead of turning their heads when they see a crime, maybe there would be less crime to worry about. But Chief Charles Rodriguez says that doesn't mean all citizens should do what Staff Sergeant Mitchell Shiggs did. The Army sergeant saw 2 men stealing a car while he was helping his wife deliver newspapers. One of the suspects got away, but the other thought Shiggs had a gun and stopped what he was doing.
Yes, he did. So as he kept his hands behind his head, if he knew I wasn't armed, I don't think he would have stayed there.
Why did you do that?
Well, I guess seeing everybody else getting their car stolen and everything, and around here, you got to have a car.
Well, Shiggs received a merit award from the chief for his good deed, and Shiggs offered a moral for the story by saying stealing a car is like stealing a man's horse. It's something that's part of your life.
Takes some guts.
Job well done.
To do that.
Yeah.
There's a
Everyone wants better police protection, but not everyone wants a police substation in their backyard. The city wants to build a substation in McAllister Park, but city reporter Kathy Teague says a nearby neighborhood is fighting that location.
Right now, McAllister Park is the closest thing you can call a wilderness area inside the city limits. But those who live near here say it won't last long if a police substation is built here, too. There's a proposal to use 4 acres in the northwest corner of the park, across from the Gardens of Oak Hollow subdivision. People there say the north side substation will ruin the neighborhood.
I do think that it's going to detract a lot from the privacy and the isolation of it that we have now, and that's the reason that we all bought in there, because we liked the feeling that we were kind of out of the city, that we were enclosed in a little country type area.
The residents and the users of the park are not against a police substation in the park. However, they are against this particular location.
Instead of an area that already has hiking trails and campsites, the people don't understand why an undeveloped area wasn't picked, like this one near Starcrest.
We checked all of that before we decided to have it there. You know, how's it going to impact? In fact, we've thought about several different places in and around the park, and this is the best location.
It won't be easy changing anyone's mind, but residents say they hope a meeting with police and the city tonight will give all sides a chance to understand each other. Kathy Teague, KSAT 12 News.
The city's plans to put a new police substation in McAllister Park have hit a snag. Campers and joggers don't want to see the park disturbed, and News 4 reporter Linda Wasserman tells us they have a different location in mind.
McAllister Park, a peaceful, quiet place, a great place to walk your dog or go hiking or jogging almost any day of the week. But this very spot could become a parking lot as part of the city's plans for a new police substation. Robert Walker is a regular user of the park, jogging in the mornings. He says federal dollars were used to buy the land several years ago, and it was supposed to be just for recreational use.
Now the city is proposing a use totally contrary to that, and we feel like it's a bad precedent that eventually the city will consider fire stations and schools for the property, and this will cause further deterioration of the park.
Walker says if parkland must be used, then why not the remote southern edge of the park? It's across from the city's garbage transfer station and has access to Starcrest Road, a 4-lane street that could handle the police traffic. As it is now, the proposed location would force patrol cars to use Jones-Maltzberger, a 2-lane road that won't be widened for another 2 years. Police Chief Charles Rodriguez explained why the alternate site would not really work.
The area there is too enclosed. It's not accessible as far as we're concerned. Where we would have land is heavily traveled, and the position of the land there is kind of a blind spot. So we're not too happy with that.
Tonight at 7 o'clock at this neighborhood daycare center right across the street from McAllister Park, residents of the area will have their first opportunity to meet with police and park officials about these plans for the police substation. This will be the first time there's been any public input into the project. Linda Wasserman, News 4, San Antonio.
All right, let's take a bow. Here's the police chief anyway, Charles Rodriguez on the newsreel. You know the biggest worry in his job?
Will I be able to remember the line?
I can't. No, fighting crime is his big worry, so he likes to thank people who help, like Sergeant Mitchell Shiggs took off after some criminals, never thinking he might
come back with some additional cuts.
He chased 2 men who were trying to hotwire a car on Powhatan Drive, and he caught one. He got the city's Meritorious Service Award for that.
And we thank you.
Also today, the chief presented the Officer of the Month Award to Patrolman Ruben Rendon. KSJL Radio and Miller Beer sponsored that award. Rendon's been with the force since '71, and he really catches the bad guys.
Bam, you know, one right after another.
He's good. And we even caught the chief somewhere else today at a Crime Stoppers luncheon. What did they eat over there anyway?
Well, they have to take just what's offered.
Well, along with it, they got word of the first River Romp held March 29th and 30th at La Villita. It'll raise money for the Crime Stoppers program. Are you going, sir?
And I'm not yet ready to say yes, I will, or no, I won't.
Well, Channel 5 co-sponsors Crime Stoppers. Was the head of our station there today?
The head was not there.
But news director Bob Rogers was. Hard-working, intelligent.
Indicted for lying under oath.
He was not. He really knows the news business. He's been telling me how to cover it for years. I remember all those lessons. He used to tell me...
I tell him to keep his eyes and ears open, his mouth shut as much as possible.
Good advice. That's Eyewitness Newsreel. I made it.
Yeah.
Chief. Okay, let's take a look at tonight's newsreel. And at City Hall today, council members considered resolutions for local police and Johann Sebastian Bach, and they said...
There has to be some type of resolution to these 2 issues.
And they had them. The first was from Mayor Cisneros to Police Officer Richard Dilley and Chief Charles Rodriguez. With the help of students from Sunset Hills Elementary, the mayor made tomorrow Men in Blue Day to thank those who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe. I mean, isn't that why you guys joined the force, huh?
Myself, I'm just here to have fun.
I'll get out of here. Anyway, the Up With People folks were out here again today, this time singing at the Jewish Community Center. They've been in town all week, even though their concert isn't until tomorrow. These people are so clean and so natural.
Some have been bought by the television show Wild Kingdom.
Not that natural, but it looks like so much fun we have to keep Albert from auditioning for a part with him.
He really wanted to try.
Yeah, but he's off key. Albert could go by the San Antonio Garden Center Friday through Sunday and shop their first citywide plant sale. If you've looked forward to buying a bromeliad.
Oh, definitely. The highlight of my life.
I knew it, and the money goes for a number of charities, but with this big variety of plants, it may be crowded.
Well, let them be forewarned.
They are. Finally, remember Johann Sebastian Bach? He showed up at City Council today, or at least somebody who looked like it.
Is that a correct characterization?
Well, that was actually Bob Finster of the Texas Bach Choir. Councilwoman Helen Duttmer read a proclamation, and next Thursday, the choir will perform on Bach's 300th birthday. Despite rumors, Dan Cook was not born by then, but says he did report firsthand on the Civil War.
So somewhere in between lies the truth, and we've got to find it.
Somewhere in that time, yeah. Anyway, that's Eyewitness Newsreel. Now.
The love affair between local police officers and Sunset Hills Elementary School students was in full bloom again today as the youngsters there celebrated their annual Men in Blue We Love You Day. San Antonio brass and uniformed officers were invited to the school to drink coffee and have snacks with the children. They also got to answer some questions about how police officers catch the bad guys. And the police chief made his second appearance at the school along with the president of the Police Officers Association. The students invite the Men in Blue each year during Police Appreciation Month. Del?
Okay, we still have...
The Muscular Dystrophy Association will again sponsor its annual Police Tag Day on Saturday, March 23rd. Police Chief Charles Rodriguez is with us to talk about this and Police Appreciation Week. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Bob. How are you?
Very good. Let's talk about the Police Tag Day and what all is going to happen.
Well, you know, we have kind of a direction here in terms of muscular dystrophy, and we are trying to assist the muscular dystrophy effort by being actively involved. And on March the 23rd, we're going to have the Tag Day, and what that's going to mean is that a number of our police officers are going to be at key intersections in the city to collect money. This was done last year. This is all going to be done on off-duty time. This is not going to involve anybody that is going to be working on that day. So we're urging everybody to contribute when they see that muscular dystrophy sign and when they see the officers out there collecting money. Now, some officers may not be in uniform, so you can still be assured that they will be collecting monies for muscular dystrophy, and I think that's great. We've been doing this now for, I understand, for about 3 to 4 years.
So when the people drive up to the intersection, don't be alarmed when they see the officer there. Just give whatever amount. Sometimes they feel like all they have is change, but any amount is important.
That's right, any amount, whatever you can give, whatever you have available, pennies, dollars, many dollars, we would appreciate it. And this is our effort. This is our way of contributing to the community and contributing to the nation, really, because this is a nationwide effort. And we're very pleased to do that. And it's in conjunction with Law Enforcement Week, too. So.
Well, let's just tie right into that.
Sure.
Surprisingly enough, it is a Law Enforcement Week. Let's talk about that and what's going to happen there.
Well, you know, there's a week of the year that the city acknowledges law enforcement. In fact, just about everybody in the area acknowledges law enforcement, and just to kind of emphasize that we as law enforcement officers are out there, and we are a helping agency. We do provide service, and I think it's great to tie those two in.
I know there's a grade school, Sunset Elementary, that do a police appreciation. What is going on with them?
Well, they have a yearly Men in Blue, We Love You. And what they do is they ask that the police officers come to the school. They talk about, in their classrooms, about law enforcement. They talk about police officers, what we do, and then we get a chance to meet them. The kids are really enthusiastic. I'm just pleased to see that how that school has developed the program and how well we have responded to that, and how the interaction between the kids from the first grade on up in the elementary school really work together. That's terrific. I wish that would expand to a lot of the other grammar schools.
I think they even go to the effort of making bumper stickers, don't they?
They make bumper stickers. They make little signs. They provide coffee and donuts for the officers that come by, and they ask questions to the officers, and the officers visit the schoolrooms, and it's terrific. You can just see. I've had a chance to visit the school on several occasions, and you can just see the enthusiasm of the kids there to see a uniformed officer.
It's so important for youngsters to see a policeman close up in a natural situation, and just to talk to them, let them know they have a friend should they be in a situation for alarm. Let's talk about something coming up in the near future, Fiesta Week. I know during the holidays you had an increase of DWI cruisers combing the streets. Will there be something like that again for this Fiesta period?
It would be kind of difficult, Bob, because what happens with Fiesta is the majority of our personnel are taken up with the security for Fiesta, and it makes it very difficult to put any additional men out to do that particular kind of work. However, those men that will be out will be looking at, of course, DWIs and people that are intoxicated in the street. Yeah, we will be looking at it, but I don't know if we can be have such an intense program as we had during the Christmas holidays.
Okay, well, let's get back to the MDA Police Tag Day. Again, we want the people to be aware that y'all will be out on the 23rd.
We'll be out on the 23rd at some major intersections, and I'm sure you'll not miss us. And let me add one other thing.
that there are about 31 other agencies in and around San Antonio here whom I've called and have gotten a pledge by them that they will also be collecting on the streets. So it's a total law enforcement effort. The chiefs of police that I called from all these various agencies, about over 30, they were enthusiastic. Great, let's do it, and I'm real pleased with that.
So those will be in the outlying areas.
Outlying areas in
all their busy intersections.
All their busy intersections, right.
And if people have a question about what we're talking about or want to have more information, they can call 657-9001.
Right, correct.
And we will be looking for possibly yourself and your troops out there on the 23rd.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, sir. It was good talking to you.
Same here, Bob.
And
crime is a subject which concerns everybody. It's obvious by the neighborhood watch programs that you see springing up and interest in programs such as Crime Stoppers, which we air here on Ken's TV. And here to talk about the crime situation as it applies locally is our Chief of Police, Chief Charles Rodriguez. Welcome to the show. Some interesting statistics in the 1984 crime figures for San Antonio as they were compared to 1983. It shows that in 5 of the 7 major categories were significant increases in the instances of crime in San Antonio, showed an overall crime increase of 7.7%. Wondered if you could give a reason for that increase.
San Antonio is growing, right? And I think we can say safely that because it's growing, we're bringing in not only desirable people, but also the undesirable people. Together with that, what we have is an increase in public awareness and the fact that they're willing to report crimes. And with that, keep in mind that the figures you have are reported crimes. Mm-hmm. And that's about the only thing we can really safely concentrate on in terms of figures. So reported crimes means that more people are reporting crimes. Now, whether there has been an increase or not is very hard to say. I would venture to say that it's probably because of our modernized procedures and the fact that people are aware.
Do you think more people are reporting rapes?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Because the increase in the rape category was a staggering 43.5% over 1985 or 1983. Realizing that we have had a growth in population, that would seem to be a disproportionate increase in the number of rapes, and I wondered if you could go into that.
Well, it's been demonstrated in other cities that as people become more aware of the fact that rapes should be reported, and as there is a concentration of an effort made by various groups to focus on that the reports do go up. Women are more prone to come out and report it. I think that goes along with the sexual abuse program that has now been instituted. The district attorney has a program whereby, in conjunction with the police department, we follow through on all these.
Is it just that women are reporting rapes more often now, or some people say that that the court system is too lenient on convicted rapists and is not a deterrent then to the crime?
I don't think that's true here in San Antonio. I think the district attorney and the courts are very well aware that there are pressures on us in law enforcement and the administration of justice to focus on these kinds of crimes, and I think they're doing a good job. I think they are.
You see people nowadays taking the law into their own hands. Bernard Goetz is an example, but there seems to be an outcry. The reaction to the Bernhard Goetz case is a story in itself. What is your reaction when you see public support of a person who has taken the law into his own hands?
I get the feeling that people have, that there's a lot of fear out there. I get the feeling that there is a feeling by many of our citizens that perhaps the criminal justice system cannot protect them, either at home or as they are out in public. I get the feeling that perhaps there's a whole series of things that are wrong there. It has to do with prosecution, it has to do with courts, it has to do with enforcement, it has to do with laws, it has to do with leniency.
We have very little time left, and before we leave, I needed to mention the first annual Crime Stoppers River Romp is taking place this weekend. That's going to be at La Villita. Of course, those $1,000 rewards that are offered in the Crime Stopper reports don't come out of anyone's pockets. Those are donated funds. So we hope to see everyone there. You're going to be at the River Romp. Yes. That begins this weekend at La Villita. We hope you can attend. Thank you, Chief Rodriguez, for being with us.
Fred.
We'll be right back.
El próximo 6 de abril, los votantes de San Antonio tendrán la oportunidad de votar sobre la emisión de bonos que, entre otras cosas, cubriría el costo de construir 2 nuevas estaciones de la policía. Edgar Rivera nos informa que hay una fuerte oposición al establecimiento de una estación en el norte de la ciudad, pero que dicho proyecto no tiene nada que ver con la emisión de los $100 millones en bonos.
A medida que se acerca el día de elecciones, las oposiciones a la emisión de bonos son más evidentes. Aparentemente los grupos que se oponen a la emisión de bonos son los responsables por el vandalismo contra el anuncio en pro de la emisión. Mientras tanto, se han suspendido la distribución de este folleto informativo acerca de los bonos debido a que el periódico comercial amenazó a la ciudad con demandarla por tener un formato muy similar. En otras palabras, los sanantonianos no recibirán la información acerca de los bonos que se esperaba. La presente emisión de bonos y la construcción de una subestación de policías en este parque no tienen nada que ver. Sin embargo, debido a la mala información que ha habido acerca de los bonos, los residentes de este sector han comenzado a identificar ambos proyectos. El Departamento de Policía tiene planes de construir una subestación de policía. Por su parte, los residentes de este sector están de acuerdo con la subestación, pero no en el parque. Más aún, han amenazado con no votar en pro de la emisión de bonos si persiste la idea de construir en el parque la subestación de policía.
La realidad es que la estación para la policía en McAllister Park ya tiene los fondos necesarios para construirse en los bonos de 1980. Estos bonos de este año van a tener dinero para 2 estaciones, uno en la área de Military Drive y Zarzamora y otra estación en la área de Martin Luther King y IH-10.
Contrariamente a días anteriores, el jefe de policía se ha mostrado muy flexible en cuanto al futuro lugar de la subestación, y todo parece ser para evitar una reacción negativa a la emisión de bonos.
Todavía no hacemos la decisión definitiva. Estamos mirando, bueno, no estamos mirando, sino estamos seguros que el lugar que escogimos es el mejor. Pero si no se puede hacer allí, pues no se puede hacer, ¿verdad?
Edgar Rivera, para Reporter 41.
Alex is down at the first annual Crime Stoppers River Romp with some dire news for the weekend. Is it still looking pretty bad?
Well, like at noontime, if I had a paper bag, I'd put it over my head right now. It doesn't really look good for tomorrow, but today and tonight it's looking real good, and we're over at the River Romp now. We have 2 distinguished individuals with us, Iris Rubin and, of course, Congressman Albert Bustamante. Glad to see you here from Washington. What do you think of this effort that we're trying to do here with the River Romp?
Well, I think it's a great thing, and we want to thank Lutz Islay, president of Pearl, for help and sponsor this event here, the Crime Stoppers event. It's a citywide event, and he is joined, of course, by those who have supported this effort, Channel KNS, Channel 5, and the Express and News, and many, many volunteers from throughout the city. So I'm glad that I'm a part of this because it's a tremendous program for our community.
Well, thank you for being here. We're glad to see you here.
Good to see you again.
Let's go real quick to Iris Rubin. Iris, we know that this is a very important event for Crime Stoppers. This is where they get a lot of money for the program. But really, how significant is this River Romp to the actual program?
Well, the reward system, you know, the money must come from the citizen, and this will help a great deal. So we can take in revenue with our food booths, and we have music, and 7 radio stations have contributed fun and games, and it's a happy, wonderful event. And it's a chance for the whole city to participate and the county.
That's true. We can all get in and participate in this. Yes.
Excuse me, Alex. I'm going to mess things up back at the station. I know they're crying about time, but I just want to jump in here. See my Crime Stoppers t-shirt?
I think that's beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
I think that's beautiful.
Without the help of this gentleman, though, we wouldn't have much of a program. This is Chief Rodriguez from the police department. And Since you've come to town, the program has really developed.
Well, you know, it's part of the philosophy, I think, that we've put on the police department, that we want to focus on prevention. And Crime Stoppers is a preventive approach because people do know that we're going beyond just saying that crimes are committed. We're actually soliciting help from the public, the business community, and it's working just great, Bob.
We appreciate it. And we're stopping some crime, too, by the way.
Yes, I think we are.
Come on down to the river romp this weekend. You'll enjoy it. Now back to Alex. He just has enough time to give you the weather update.
It is 6 a.m. in the morning.
Is Mr. Patty Cox here?
6 a.m. 6.
Yeah. Let me introduce Chief Rodriguez, who is introducing a gentleman from Aylesworth, England, subdivision of the Suffolk Constabulary, who is here to greet the City Council from England.
We have a guest with us today from England who came to the station and wanted to present us with some mementos from England, and I'll let him speak for himself. Mr. Patty Cox.
Mr. Cox.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning,
Members
sir.
of Council. This is a tremendous privilege for me to be here today. The most important thing is that this is my first visit to America. Now, a fortnight ago, my wife and I flew into Washington, D.C., and we spent 5 days in that beautiful city. And the thing that struck me about Washington was the Englishness of the area and the architecture. And then we got on an aeroplane and we flew down to San Antonio and we discovered America.
Right.
Now, it's very kind of you, Mr. Mayor, to give me the opportunity of a few minutes of your time, because I come from a small English town in the heart of Suffolk, England, which has a lot of history back to Roman times. But I would like to say to you that in England, we remember the Alamo. And we do. And that really is one of the reasons that I'm in San Antonio. Because 8 years ago, I walked out of my village with my 2 daughters and the dog for a walk. And we walked through the fields. And one day I just came across some concrete in the undergrowth. And being interested in aircraft, I sort of looked at this and I thought, well, this looks military. And as we went through the undergrowth, we discovered a runway. Huh. And my oldest daughter, and in England they take in modern history the Second World War as part of their curriculum, asked me a question. She said, Dad, what took place here? And I couldn't answer her. And I felt so strong about this that I wrote immediately to the United States, because I knew that much, that it was an old American base. I wrote to the United States, and by return I had a letter giving me the history of what took place there. And before I knew what had happened, I was chairman of the Friends of the 489th Bombardment Group, United States Army Air Force.
What was it, an 8th Air Force facility?
It was a B-24
B-24s.
Bomb base. And those veterans, since those times, we now have a memorial which we call our Alamo. And I'm not going to, I've timed this, I don't think it'll take more than 3 minutes, but may I please just say something to you which the English people have asked me to do. My visit, in fact, came about because there is very strong connections and affection between the people of Halesworth in Suffolk and the United States. Particularly Halesworth, because I happen to be a guest in San Antonio of my friend sitting here, John Becker, an ex-navigator of a B-24 bomber flying from the runways of my town. This navigator flew many missions over Germany and occupied Europe and has become a very dear friend. And I also, out of interest, the commanding officer of that 489th was Colonel Napier from San Antonio, who later became General Napier. The reason for this friendship will be of interest to you because I'm here because of what we call the Halesworth Stone. I'm here because of a stone that stands in a corner of an English field. That's forever the 489th. And this is not so by work of statesmen or diplomats, nor by virtue of law or statute, but because it was placed there in the close adjoining village by the people. Halesworth, during 43-44, became home of many United States Army Air Force personnel. It firstly became home to the famous 56 Fighter Group, flying their P-47 Thunderbolts, which were feared and respected by the Luftwaffe, and then later by the mighty 489th. But my interest is in the 489th Bomb Group. The Americans said to me when they placed that stone there, and this is why we remember the Alamo, because this is exactly the same reason. They said to me, when your children ask, what do these stones mean? Stones are memorials for children. They are for the next generation and the next and the next, so that the story might be told again. Mm-hmm. This stone must be told again, this story, so that they may know what they've inherited and upon what foundation they build their new world. And the story of my stone can be simply told. There was a time in the 30s and 40s of this century when a dark and powerful evil grasped some of the nations of the world, threw them into conquest and warfare. And nation after nation fell and surrendered until my island nation was left alone. For 1 year, fighting across the globe, the struggle was maintained until she became under siege herself. Across the grey Atlantic swept a cry for help, and men in the United States of America, and I can assure you many Texans, left their farms, their factories, their shops, their offices, and their homes, were trained and equipped, and came in answer to England's cry. Some of them, men like my dear friend John Becker, served with the 489th, flying from the runways of my village. Some survived, many died. None returned back to the United States unchanged. And together with all those who fought at that time, whether living or dead, they comprise a great witness before we live and work and build our new world. There are stones at the Alamo. There are stones in Rotterdam and Warsaw, Stalingrad, Singapore, Iwo Jima. We could go on, all telling their own stories of many people from many nations allied in one cause. Because of all this history that has taken place in my village, the young police officers of Halesworth, and my word, there's no other organisation that represents freedom more in our country, asked me personally to make this presentation to Charles with our good wishes and affection to America and particularly San Antonio. And I would ask Charles that wherever he places that, would he please remember the pilots and the war-weary crews of the 489th as they flew over the channel, coming in what the Americans used to say, a wing and a prayer, seeking refuge under the grey skies of England. Mr. Mayor, I thank you for this opportunity.
Most articulate statement, sir, and a moving statement and an emotional recollection and inspiration to uphold values and to express gratitude for the sacrifices of those people who, frankly, still live in our city and work amongst us, some of them now reaching retirement age, but who saved our world from who knows what might have been possible had England not held and had the counterattacks from there begun in 43 and 44. It's a wonderful series of recollections that you have brought to us, and we're grateful to you.
Well, I think, you know, there were 6,200 young Americans died flying from the runways of Suffolk and Norfolk in England.
Is that right?
That's right.
6,000 died.
6,200.
I have something I'd like to present to you, if I may. That is a photograph book of San Antonio.
That's very kind.
So that you may remember this city.
That is wonderful.
And America when you return to England.
Thank you very, very much.
Have you in our city. Did you want to make the presentation to the Chief?
Yes, please. Charles, on behalf of the police officers of Halesworth, I would like to present you with this badge, which is the badge of what you know in America as a bobby. He wears that badge on his tall helmet. It shows the Wolsey Castle of Ipswich, which is the county town of Suffolk, and it sits beneath the royal crown. And that's a sign of affection from the police officers of Halesworth.
Thank you very much, Patty.
That's a pleasure.
Welcome to San Antonio. Thank you very much. Glad to have you. Really a moving statement.
Thank you very much.
Fighting devices called stun guns are getting a lot of attention now that Dallas police are testing them in the field. Police in San Antonio are taking a wait-and-see approach, though, even though local sales are brisk. Beverly White has the story.
You don't have to have a license, just $69.95 plus tax in order to own the Nova XR 5000. That's the brand name stun gun currently in use by the Dallas Police Department. In an effort to cut down on injuries and reports of officer abuse, they're halfway through a 6-month trial period. Used properly with rechargeable batteries, the agency says they're very effective.
They work by taking a 9-volt battery and they step up the amperage and you get 40,000 volts out of it, which is designed to immobilize a person and not to cause any permanent harm.
Carter says he's sold dozens of the handheld units since stocking them about 9 months ago. Those customers do not include San Antonio police.
Our situation right now is that we're not just altogether convinced that that is a way to go. We may in the future. And even though I come from a department that uses them in Los Angeles County, but they only have certain individuals use them, and they only use them under certain conditions.
Law enforcement officials may question the use of stun guns, but for people who prefer not to carry mace or a pistol, the high-voltage devices are a very popular item.
Well, some of them are actually afraid to have a gun around because of children or for some other reason, and or they may be afraid of guns themselves. So they prefer something that like this, where there would be no chance of having a fatality with it.
The guns appear to be an issue of local concern and not of interest to lawmakers yet.
Not something that I've been dealing with, and I wish I could give you an answer on it, but I don't have that in any way. I've not been asked for any kind of legal opinion on it.
Maddox predicts the state will soon be asked to step into the stun gun debate, no matter how the Dallas experiment turns out. Beverly White, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
A crime occurs, the crime victim is ignored. Under the state's new compensation program for crime victims, the loss of the victim is addressed directly with the goals of making amends. State Attorney General Jim Maddox was in San Antonio today to commend local officials on their crime victim programs. More than 200 crime victims in Bexar County were compensated last year. Maddox says that number could be greater if more victims knew of the program.
They talk about it now. It is the responsibility under the law for the police agencies around the state of Texas to inform the victims. I must tell you that in some counties there is no action whatsoever done to inform the victims. It's a better job being done here.
Only victims of violent crime are eligible under the program. Eligibility is determined by the State Attorney General's office. Last year, the average award was $3,400.
He dropped into San Antonio today at the police department to praise local efforts that aid crime victims. Attorney General Jim Maddox joined Chief Charles Rodriguez for a promotional stopover on behalf of the Crime Victims Compensation Fund. Convicted criminals are required by law to chip into a fund that is distributed among the survivors of violent crime. Last year, over $600,000 was passed out that way in Bexar County alone, making ours a model program for the rest of the state.
Bexar County is still responsible for about 25% of all the compensation cases where we've actually paid in the state of Texas. So that says that we've got a long ways to go in Bexar County, but we still have a much longer way to go throughout the state of Texas now.
According to Maddox's staff, there is already $10 million in that fund. The problem is many victims are not aware of it or they are too upset to apply. The money can be used for lost earnings, medical, or funeral bills not already covered by insurance.
Rodriguez today said that controversy over SWAT team tattoos has been resolved, and as far as the department is concerned, the matter is closed. At a news conference just a short time ago, Rodriguez told reporters a probe into the tattoo issue revealed no malicious intent. 12 of 20 SWAT team members wear the 2 lightning bolts with the words "total hit" in between on either their arms or legs.
extensive interviews and conversations with the supervisors of the SWAT team and other people within the department has shown that there might have been probably a lack of knowledge as to the meaning of those particular that particular tattoo or the symbolism behind that.
Rodriguez says those with the tattoos have agreed to modify the symbol. More than
I'm Sharon Jones. Topping the news, two big stories tonight. Some police officers threatened to boycott Fiesta over the SWAT team tattoo controversy.
And Texas National Guardsmen returning from Honduras.
We'll have both of these stories. First, the SWAT team.
The bottom line is the conflict over tattoos being worn by some members of the SWAT team has been resolved, and Fiesta will go on after all. The police chief was thinking about ejecting the officers wearing the tattoos from the SWAT team, but other officers had said privately that if that happened, a lot of policemen would boycott their Fiesta Patrol assignments. But Police Chief Charles Rodriguez announced the resolution to the crisis in a hastily called news conference this afternoon.
The department does not intend to pursue the issue any further, and no transfers are forthcoming.
And that means we're going to have a fiesta after all.
That means, you're right, we're going to have a fiesta after all, right.
The chief announced that after an intensive investigation, there did not appear to be a malicious intent on the part of SWAT officers wearing the controversial tattoos. The investigation began after complaints from some officers and members of the Jewish community that the tattoos resembled this emblem of Hitler's Germany, the double SS lightning bolt symbol of the Nazi secret police, Hitler's most chilling army. But the chief says an investigation has revealed the SWAT officers were unaware of the resemblance and that the officers have now agreed to modify the emblems voluntarily. And despite talk among officers of a Fiesta Patrol boycott, a meeting of the various divisions of the police department on how Fiesta will be patrolled went on as scheduled and without incident. One officer commenting off camera, there now will be a Fiesta after all. Chief Rodriguez commented that in spite of the boycott talk, he did not feel they would have carried through with it if the tattoo-wearing SWAT officers had been ejected.
I think maybe it wasn't as critical as that. I think the SWAT team members are professionals, and they would have done their job regardless.
The chief now considers the matter closed. The SWAT officers who remain under department orders not to talk with members of the media remain closed-mouthed. One did say in passing, all's well that ends well.
That members of the police SWAT team had gotten tattoos that Police Chief Charles Rodriguez found potentially offensive. The tattoos worn by 10 of the 18 SWAT members depict two lightning bolts with the words "total hit" written between. Today, the whole matter was put to rest at a press conference called by Chief Rodriguez. Rodriguez told reporters an investigation showed there was malicious intent in the designing of the tattoos. The SWAT members have also agreed to modify the tattoo.
We talked about it, and it was determined by their supervisors and the SWAT team that they would modify those tattoos. So that's actually what we were seeking initially.
Rodriguez says the police department will now drop the whole issue.
Today is National Secretaries Day. It's a time when bosses show their appreciation for the people who keep their businesses running smoothly. And today, Frank Guerra visited with one of the city's finest.
Alice Juarez is a veteran of the San Antonio Police Department. For 16 years, she has worked as secretary, serving directly under 4 chiefs of police, her latest, Charles Rodriguez.
Yes. I think he's very nice, and I've seen him when he does talk to the people, and he is nice to the people. I think he is, and I think the people feel that he is a nice guy once they talk to him.
I think that's great. You know, secretaries very seldom tell their bosses how nice they are, if they are at all. She's a tremendous, excellent secretary.
At Alice's side is her assistant, Anita Ramirez. Between the two of them, they keep in check one of the city's busiest offices.
Like this week for Fiesta Week, we've really been busy. My day has gone by so fast before I realize that it's time to close up. And that's the way it's been all week. Most of the time, it's very hectic.
Hectic and delicate. Often Alice has to field calls from angry or frustrated citizens who want to talk to the chief. Hers is also a job of experience.
2 things with Alice. She's got a lot. She knows a lot of skeletons in everybody's closet. And 2, she probably, if she had to, could run this department. So yeah, I really believe that.
But would she even want to run this or any other department? No thanks, she says, because...
I love being a secretary.
Frank Guerra, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
A nivel nacional y hasta el día 27 de este mes se festeja la Semana de la Secretaria. Generalmente se admira el exitoso trabajo que proviene de empresarios y políticos, sin percibir que en gran medida esta eficiencia es el resultado de trabajo de las secretarias. Sonia Colín tiene un reportaje sobre el tema.
Desde hace algunos años se empezó a dar reconocimiento público al trabajo de las secretarias, que son parte clave del funcionamiento correcto y constante de las oficinas. Hombres y mujeres de negocio, así como personalidades del mundo político, afirman que parte de su éxito lo deben a sus secretarias, que en muchas ocasiones tienen gran participación en la toma de decisiones.
Fíjese, yo creo que ella hace más decisiones allí con el teléfono que yo hago en todo el día.
Pues Barbie claramente es una de las personas más capaces que he conocido en toda mi vida. Tiene, yo creo, en vez de cerebro, tiene una computadora, calculadora, porque se recuerde de todo, datos, fechas, números de teléfono, y sin sus capacidades, la oficina de la alcaldía no pudiera trabajar.
La labor y responsabilidad de estas personas, que en su mayoría por tradición son mujeres, se extiende desde organizar agendas de trabajo hasta áreas administrativas, convirtiéndose así en el brazo derecho de sus jefes.
Tengo la responsabilidad de coordinar todas las actividades y el horario del alcalde, y tengo que pensar que es lo más importante para él.
Todo lo que haga yo o lo que deje de hacer va a reflejar en el trabajo del jefe.
Mientras muchos patrones aprovechan esta semana para obsequiar recuerdos, los comerciantes, principalmente de florerías y establecimientos que tienen a la venta tarjetas y artículos de oficina, dicen verse favorecidos en esta época, pues sus ventas se incrementan en cerca de un 30%. Contribuyendo grandemente a éxitos profesionales, detrás de grandes personalidades siempre han estado presentes las secretarias. Sonia Colín, Reporter 41.
The Ku Klux Klan is coming to town tomorrow to protect the shrine of Texas liberty. May Day, a traditional day of celebration in socialist countries, and 5 years ago some self-professed communists calling themselves the May Day Brigade came to the Alamo. They lowered the Texas flag and replaced it with a red one. At a news conference this morning, Police Chief Charles Rodriguez confirmed the KKK's plans to be here tomorrow to guard the Alamo. He says they don't plan to wear their sheets, but will wear military uniforms, and the chief says he doesn't expect any trouble.
We have no special plans to do anything. Based on our preliminary information, there isn't any reason for it. However, if anything does occur, why, we can muster up a number of people, in a very short period of time to handle any situation.
About 10 members of the Klan are expected to show up tomorrow. They will be coming from Pasadena, a suburb of Houston.
The FBI says San Antonio has the 4th highest crime rate in the country. But is it really that bad here? Police Chief Charles Rodriguez says he doubts it is. But he points out it's interesting for one type of crime to be down while another is on the rise.
Crimes of property are up, thefts, burglaries, and so forth. But crimes of involving people are down. Assaults, murders, stuff like that.
The chief says the FBI tends to lump certain kinds of crime together. He thinks the police department's own figures will be more accurate. They're due out this summer. He says the city does have a crime problem and says police have received help from citizens who are now reporting more crimes than before. Tomorrow is May Day, a communist holiday that brings back bad memories for city officials and will also bring back the Klan. 5 years ago, a revolutionary group climbed atop the Alamo and removed the Texas flag, leaving a red flag in its place. Since then, the Ku Klux Klan has vowed to protect the Alamo from communists. That's why they're coming to San Antonio tomorrow. Police say they don't expect any trouble from the Klan, but are prepared just in case.
If anything does occur, why, we can muster up a number of people, in a very short period of time to handle any situation.
In 1983, the Klan marched through downtown, costing the city about $100,000 in police protection. Tomorrow, they are not even planning to wear their traditional white robes.
Dan Cuellar has the night off. Our top story, San Antonio's crime rate, ranked 4th in the nation. That's according to FBI stats when compared to population. Cause for alarm? Our police chief, Charles Rodriguez, says that number 4 ranking doesn't tell the whole story. Here's more.
Crime. Every city has it. And according to recent FBI stats compiled by the Dallas Morning News using 1982 population figures, San Antonio comes in 4th in the top 10, ranking higher than cities of larger size.
We do have our problems, and the problems stem from the fact that we are increasing in population and with the growth.
The chief says it's 1984's huge jump in property crimes that pushes us near the top. Robbery was up over 1983. Burglaries also up, as well as theft, and a big increase in auto theft.
The interesting thing, though, is that whereas crimes of property have gone up in San Antonio, and I think an indicator of that was the tremendous increase of burglaries on the north side there for a while. The crimes involving persons has decreased.
What the ranking doesn't show you is that we came in behind many cities like Houston in the number of violent crimes. In fact, the only violent crime to rise was rape, with a dramatic increase in reported cases. Murder and aggravated assault dropped in 1984. The chief says the ranking is no call for alarm and credits better reporting of crime as the reason for the big jump.
We're getting more crimes that are being reported. And on the one hand, you know, that's great, because that's the only way we know what's going on. On the other hand, there too makes us look like we're just, you know, getting out of hand. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think people sense that.
The police department will come out with its own crime stats later this summer. Officials expect it will reveal about the same information, showing rapid population growth and better reporting contributing to our crime rate.
As you know, Fiesta 1985 was a huge success. The reason, it generated a lot of money, but very little crime. This morning, Police Chief Charles Rodriguez praised the city for keeping a cool head during Fiesta Week, and he also patted his men on the back, saying they did an exceptional job in keeping the peace. In particular, the carnival was, for most part, trouble-free. This year, it was more heavily patrolled and spread out, and Rodriguez said that helped.
Maybe because it was spread out, you didn't have this feeling of congestion, and when you have a feeling of congestion and people bumping into each other, there's more of a potential for problems. So maybe that was part of it. We're very pleased with the way that turned out.
Rodriguez says the police department will keep that in mind, keep in mind what they did this year, so next year will be even better.
The San Antonio Police
is asking for your help. It wants to raise money for a 9-year-old San Antonio girl who needs
life-saving operations. Frank Guerra has the story.
This is Raquel.
The police department would like you to meet 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba. She's quiet, wears a faint smile, and needs your help. On Thursday, some 25 to 30 police officers will run a relay from San Antonio to Corpus to raise money for Raquel. She needs $50,000 for a liver transplant and $100,000 for open-heart surgery. Police Chief Charles Rodriguez will start the first leg of the race.
At exactly 6 o'clock, we're going to try to stay on time. We're going to take off on the 150-mile run. We will all do it en masse initially. Then at about, I guess, a 1-mile distance, everybody drops away, and I will continue on for 6 miles, all right?
From there, police officer after police officer will carry a baton to Corpus. But why the effort?
I just heard about the need of Raquel, and I thought that was an exceptionally good idea to get involved and try and just do something for her.
We need support. There's no doubt about it. And we're asking all the citizens in the community, any of the corporations, whatever, we do need support. We need a large sum of money still, and as much as people want to help, we can use it.
If you would like to help Raquel, contributions can be made to the SAPD Relay Fund at the National Bank of Commerce at 430 Soledad. The zip is 78205. Or you can call the police department at 299-7587.
It's very important. Like I say, Raquel, she needs the liver transplant immediately, as soon as possible. It's a matter of life or death for her at this point.
Frank Guerra, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
San Antonio Police Chief Charles Rodriguez says he'll be involved. He'll run the first 6 miles of a relay to Corpus Christi. The 150-mile police run begins Thursday night to raise money to help 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba. The child desperately needs a liver transplant and open-heart surgery, and her medical bills could top $100,000. Raquel was on hand today at the Chief's weekly news conference. Rodriguez and 30 other officers will run the relay within 24 hours.
Thursday at 6 o'clock, and probably before. At exactly 6 o'clock, we're going to try to stay on time. We're going to take off on the 150-mile run. We will all do it in mass initially. Then at about, I guess, a 1 mile distance, everybody drops away and I will continue on.
A fund has been set up to handle contributions for the SAPD's relay effort. You can help. Call the Community Relations Bureau. The number is 299-7587.
In just a few minutes, the San Antonio Police Department will kick off a 150-mile run to benefit 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba. She's a San Antonio girl in need of a liver transplant and open heart surgery. Frank Guerra is standing by live in front of the police department for the start of the race. Frank?
Karen, you know what's the most interesting thing about this race?
What?
It's not the money they're raising, it's getting to see Chief Rodriguez in shorts and sneakers. It's amazing.
Do you have shorts on too, Frank?
No, I'm fully dressed. See, now the chief is all conscious about this, but actually the reason we are here is to raise money for Raquel Garcia de Alba. She said, as Karen mentioned, she needs a liver transplant and open heart surgery. Because of that, she needs to raise $150,000, money that her family can't afford. To help out, the San Antonio Police Department is sponsoring this 150-mile run all the way to Corpus. I'm here with Police Chief Charles Rodriguez. You got to feel good about your police officers who are coming to the aid of this little girl.
Oh, that's terrific. You know, the thing that I've discovered here in San Antonio is that we have a large number of projects like this that many of the officers have been doing all along, but we just haven't focused on it. This just happens to be one, and I think what it's demonstrated is the positive side of law enforcement.
You're running the first 3 and the last 3 miles. Are you ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready. Well, I'm ready, but it sure is hot today.
Well, Chief, we won't hold you up anymore. Okay. Good luck, right, and we'll be following you the whole way.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm here also with John Barlow. You're one of the officers who organized this. How much money? And this is Raquel. San Antonio, meet Raquel. Some of her friends call her Rocky. How much money have you raised so far?
This morning we had $4,500. We just received $1,100 from the Bexar County Sheriff's Department, and several other contributions are coming in left and right now. But we still need money. We really do. We need the support of everybody out there for Rocky, and this is just the beginning right here.
They also presented Rocky with some flowers.
That's correct. Each officer came up and gave Rocky 1 rose, and it's a symbol of our affection, caring for her. So.
What can people do to help?
Send money. We need contributions from corporations or even any of the private citizens. Anything at all that we can get will be greatly appreciated.
So anybody in San Antonio can help?
Sure. If USA for Africa can raise $5 million, I think we can raise $50,000 for
I hear a countdown coming down. Let's go ahead and take a look. The breakthrough is provided by South San High School, and here they go. 150 miles all the way to Corpus Christi, on the behalf of Raquel Garcia de Alba. Now, I understand that we do have Chopper 5 up above the skies of San Antonio. There we are. A little bit about the race. What they plan to do is pass the baton all the way from here to San Antonio. Each of these officers will run 6 miles. As I mentioned, the police chief will run the first 3 miles. He'll run the last 3 miles. What they want people to do is contribute money for each mile that is run. If there are any people who would just like to make donations, they are more than welcomed. And Karen, what we will do is we're going to follow this all the way from beginning to end. We're going to cover them through the night and through the heat tomorrow. There'll be a celebration once they arrive in Corpus, and we will be there.
It's a great cause, Frank, and I'm sure you've got your tennis shoes.
Excuse me, Karen?
I'm sure you've got your tennis runners.
They're all out here.
Okay, Frank. We'll follow that story up again tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Right now, there are over 30 very tired San Antonio police officers recuperating in Corpus Christi. Just several hours ago, they completed a 150-mile benefit run for 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba. Raquel, as you might know, is in need of a liver transplant and open heart surgery as well. Money raised by the run will help pay for those operations. Reporter Frank Guetta and photographer Jeff Hassler were in Corpus Christi today. They will have a complete report for us at 10 o'clock on Eyewitness News. That's a long way to run, even if you only run in 6-mile increments, which those guys did.
And even if those guys didn't raise a whole lot of money, and I have no idea how much they raised, they should be very proud of themselves.
Very much so.
When policemen have to huff and puff it in a run down the street, they're usually chasing one of the bad guys. In this instance, though, we're going to show you they were running to save a little girl's life here. Rocky needs a liver transplant. So, the run for the money. Mike Johnson reports from the other end of the course in Corpus Christi.
As 30 San Antonio policemen left the city last night, they were beginning a journey that would take them 150 miles to Corpus Christi. It was the start of a run for money and for the lives of 2 children, one from San Antonio and one from Corpus Christi. Hey guys. After a very long, hot day on the road today, they met runners from the Corpus Christi Police Department who joined in. The object, together, to draw attention to the needs of little John Boulware of Corpus Christi, who needs a liver transplant, and 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba of San Antonio, who needs a liver transplant and open heart surgery. Police hope the 21-hour trip would do a lot to raise the $180,000 the children together need for both operations. There was celebration at the finish line in front of the Corpus Christi Police Department and a challenge from one city's police chief to another.
We may have to challenge you for next year. Well, with your department. They tell me you have 6 miles coming out of San Antonio. And you're going to challenge me? Well, not personal. Good.
Policemen here tonight say the real challenge is still to come.
We're with her 100%. We love this little girl right here. We'll do it again. We'll do it 100 times for her. We need your support, people. We really do. We did our part. Now we need your help.
In Corpus Christi, Mike Johnson for News 4 San Antonio.
Well, the San Antonio Police Force has done it. A group of officers led by Chief Charles Rodriguez has wrapped up their 150-mile relay run to Corpus Christi to raise money for 9-year-old Raquel Garcia de Alba. The little girl faces $100,000 worth of surgery for a liver transplant and a heart operation, and the city cops decided to pitch in. They made the run to raise money. Already several $1,000s have come in. Chief Charles Rodriguez opened the run last night. He ended it this afternoon, and he says it may not be the last such event his department will be involved in.
Next year, we're going to do it again. Absolutely. This is going to be, I think, a yearly thing. We anticipated anywhere from getting here from 4 o'clock to 7. And we did great time. I think we got here around 3 o'clock, a little after 3, and I think that's great.
Members of the Corpus Christi Police Department hosted the San Antonio officers at a banquet tonight in honor of the run.
Washington.
Although unaware that Elma Ramirez was in Washington lobbying for more support for police widows, Police Chief Charles Rodriguez today said he agreed with some of her complaints.
Relatives should have more access to the trials in order to determine what is going on and in order to determine a course of action, sure. As far as community support, I think we have a lot of it here in San Antonio. Now, there may be other places where you don't. So I'm not too sure what the issue is there.
Next up, roof.
Apologies were in order today at the police department. District Attorney Sam Millsap said he was sorry he and a member of his staff made comments alleging misconduct on the part of a police sergeant. Millsap was referring to the destruction of evidence connected with the trial of a police officer charged with aggravated assault. Sergeant Paul Buskey, assigned to homicide at the time, inadvertently destroyed the evidence because it was mislabeled. Millsap said he's convinced the mistake was unavoidable.
From my examination of the information that's available to me, that the police department did everything that it could have done to provide us with assistance. I wanted to come over and personally and publicly apologize to both the chief, to Mr. Buskey, and to the department for those comments. They shouldn't have been made.
Fred Moore, the officer charged with aggravated assault, was acquitted of the crime.
The daughter of a city police officer who was killed on duty 10 years ago received some financial help today in her father's memory. The 100 Club, a police and fire support group, today gave 18-year-old Tanya Bennett a check for $5,000. The group helps families of officers killed in the line of duty. Tanya's father, Officer James Bennett, was hit and killed by a car in 1975 while he was investigating a traffic wreck. Probably the worst fear a parent can have.
Almost 90% of Texans feel safe in their homes at night, according to the Texas poll. But only half say they would feel safe walking alone at night within 1 mile of their house. Tonight's edition of the Texas poll tells us what Texans think about their local police departments.
The men and women of Texas City Police and Sheriff's Departments rate high with Texans. 65% say good or excellent. San Antonio Police Chief Charles Rodriguez thinks it is because of community involvement and high visibility.
You know, we've committed to the protection of the citizens in San Antonio, and I think we've developed some programs that include the citizens that I think is very important. You know, the good neighbor and so forth. Crime stoppers and all of these things that go to bring the public into the function of the police, meaning they are part of what we're doing.
Rodriguez sees this closeness resulting in a dramatic change in crime reporting. Police at one time complained most crimes went unreported. According to the Texas poll, 93% of those affected by crime call the police. But why do the police enjoy such a high approval rating when the other components of the criminal justice system, the courts and the prisons, rank so low? Rodriguez says it is a universal problem of money, not enough of it.
The fact that new prisons have to be constructed, the fact that additional courts have to be implemented, just as they did here in Bexar County. They put in 3 new courts. All of those things go to causing problems for those particular categories in criminal justice, and the public sees that, and I think they're very quick to criticize.
Michael Jones, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Most Texans have guns in their homes, according to the Texas poll, and as Michael Jones reports, most would not hesitate to use the weapons in self-defense.
It looks like most of the guns are in East Texas, although one surprise in the Texas poll is that native Texans are least likely to own guns. Police Chief Charles Rodriguez says many people think of guns as a security blanket, but the chief cautions accidents can happen.
The fact still remains that it is against the law to carry a gun outside of your home. And if you plan to do that, then you have to plan to suffer the consequences. But I have to admit that having carried a weapon all my life, darn near, that it does make you feel a little safe. If they feel like they want to have weapons in their home, they should have a shotgun or a rifle. Handguns, you can get hurt. Or your children can get hurt. I think we have more accidents with handguns that children get a hold of, or somebody that doesn't know how to handle them.
Nearly everyone in Texas has heard of Bernard Goetz shooting 4 teenagers in New York's subway. Goetz claims self-defense. Gun owners in Texas support his actions 2 to 1, but our local law enforcement leaders do not.
I think what happens there is it's not so much the fact that you carry a gun and just shoot somebody. I think there is a certain level of frustration that's being demonstrated by people that feel that we in the criminal justice system can't do enough to make them feel safer.
And I think that what is going to happen in New York City is that when all of the story is told, Bernard Goetz is not going to be a hero. And I would be more concerned, frankly, if after the story is told, and told completely, if these numbers were the same.
Michael Jones, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
Sexual assault, a crime of violence no victim should have to go through alone. That's the feeling of those at the Alamo Area Rape Crisis Center, which launches its Sexual Assault Awareness Week in San Antonio. Today at the police department, the executive director was handing out appreciation award to officers who have helped their advocate program along.
For the last year, we've really been involved with the police department and training them in awareness of the rape victim, what happens to her or him, and how they can better support that victim. And in return, they've given us education in the legal field and how we can help the rape victim go through that process.
Abbott says rape is a community problem. That's why they're trying to heighten awareness this week. The Rape Crisis Center says our community has come a long way in shedding some of the myths and stereotypes about rape, but still many go unreported. And there are many victims that are unaware their agency can provide advocates to see them through this trauma. As well as the 24-hour service to help rape victims in reporting and counseling, the Rape Crisis Center will also have prevention programs planned this week.
Very good.
All right. Yes. What is it time for?
Eyewitness Newsreel.
Thank you, yes. Police Sergeant Paul Buskey was honored today at the police chief's press conference. Some of his friends said okay, but we want to see it on Eyewitness Newsreel. They said it.
And until that point, I'm not going to believe any of it.
So here it is. Buskey, along with Sergeants Vincent Hans and Albert Ortiz, were commended by the local Rape Crisis Center for their work. Buskey's now a public information officer with the police. How did he get that job, huh?
Just by accident.
Well, so did I. Superstar Elton John was in court today. You know Elton. He sings rock.
Around the clock.
Old song. But he's suing a former manager in London. Elton says the guy conned him out of the rights to some of his best songs, including Yellow Brick Road, Rocket Man, Crocodile Rock, and the ever-popular
Permanent or long-term brain damage.
One of my favorites. Speaking of music, do people in Libya have any complaints about our music?
Here's a list.
Well, they started a fire today. Seems they don't like music made with guitars, drums, and tuba.
What other way is there?
Beats me, but Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi says these instruments distort Arab culture. In fact, Albert's old band director sent his trombone over there, and they said they'd burn that too.
Colin, I would personally have no regrets.
Yeah, she was in the band with him.
Now that school is out for the next couple of months, the anti-drug organizations are counting on creative approaches as they combat teenage drug abuse. With the support of local merchants, the war on drugs has risen to new heights. Beverly White has the story.
Heads up, San Antonio, a Say Nope to Dope billboard is probably coming to your neighborhood soon, thanks to the combined efforts of people with nothing more in common than their mutual dislike of drugs. Outdoor advertisers insist the medium can greatly aid in the ongoing battle.
There's 17 of them up now and probably another dozen or so going up, and they're all over the city. So while the kids are out this summer and being mobile and traveling, I'm sure they're going to see them a lot, and hopefully they'll respond.
Various merchants are kicking in the seed money to help keep the campaign alive, but the whole idea is the brainchild of Teens Against Drug Abuse, an organization whose existence is based on prevention. Last month's arrest of drug pushers at area high schools only reinforces their mission.
Well, I think any program that is going to identify a problem and give you some idea on what to do and how to go about it and indicate that there may be a help group around is excellent.
Law officers agree that such positive peer pressure can only help cut down on the number of criminals they must deal with in the future.
Most all of them have a background beginning with playing hooky from school. And this is the beginning of it, and mixing with crowds and groups that they shouldn't be mixing with. So I think if the parents get involved, we can help shut it down.
Since the group was only organized last year, the Billboard campaign is their most conspicuous project to date. After all, most school children have more on their minds in the summertime than lessons learned in the school year. Beverly White, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
En estos momentos, la policía de San Antonio se encuentra investigando 6 asesinatos cometidos anoche y en la madrugada del día de hoy. El jefe de la policía, Charles Rodríguez, dice que aparentemente los crímenes se cometieron por personas intoxicadas con problemas emocionales, mientras que el oficial Valdés da algunos detalles de los homicidios.
Es una cosa que no queremos, ¿verdad? Pero es una cosa así, las muertes que ocurrieron, es una cosa de emoción. Parece que todas las muertes que pasaron anoche, pues son 6, fueron así de emoción, de una cosa de revenge o de tomando mucho. Y bueno, eso no se puede controlar.
Sí, ayer por la noche se registraron 2 muertes, uno que murió apuñaleado y otro balaceado. Hoy en la mañana se reportaron 2 personas más que fueron balaceadas en su casa, y en ese caso hay un sospechoso ahorita en la cárcel. Ahora en la mañana se reportaron 2 más.
El jefe Rodríguez agregó que no es muy común que se cometan tantos crímenes en un solo día, pero que desafortunadamente eso no puede estar bajo control.
Guillermo Payán le salvó la vida a la señora Bertini Solís cuando quedó atrapada dentro de su automóvil en la calle West Commerce, que estaba totalmente inundada a consecuencia de las fuertes lluvias que cayeron el pasado 6 de junio. Hoy el jefe de la policía, Charles Rodríguez, otorgó un reconocimiento meritorio a Guillermo Payán por haber rescatado a la señora Bertini, arriesgando su propia vida. El jefe Rodríguez agradeció a Payán su cooperación con el Departamento de Policía en situaciones de emergencia. Mónica.
Más de 500.
El jefe de la policía, Charles Rodríguez, por su parte, dice que si los Guardian Angels deciden establecerse en San Antonio, el Departamento de Policía no les dará concesiones especiales. El jefe Rodríguez indica que tiene dudas sobre cómo funcionaría ese grupo, pero que si realmente quieren ayudar a la población, no se les puede negar que patrullen las calles.
Set of circumstance, if they're to come here and set something up and it works, that's great, because we need all the help we can get. However, if it's a move to get publicity and nothing occurs, then that's something else.
El jefe Rodríguez enfatizó, sin embargo, que los ángeles guardianes tendrán que obedecer las leyes de la ciudad.
El jefe de la policía, Charles Rodríguez, inauguró hoy una exhibición en la que se presenta al público una serie de objetos que han sido utilizados por el departamento en el pasado. La exhibición es un primer paso en la posible creación de un museo del Departamento de Policía de San Antonio. Esto con el propósito de permitir al público conocer las funciones y los logros de los policías de su ciudad.
Agradecemos la participación del señor jefe Charles Rodríguez, jefe del Departamento de Policía, el programa el día de hoy. Uno de los temas importantes, se pudiera decir, es conocer su opinión, señor Rodríguez, en relación al interés del grupo de jóvenes Ángeles Guardianes establecerse aquí en San Antonio y la controversia que todo esto ha dado pie, protesta o no protesta, grupos de jóvenes particularmente mexicoamericanos que forman lo que es conocido como Brown Berets. ¿Nos quiere hablar sobre su opinión? ¿Qué le parece todo esto, primeramente?
Bueno, la cosa con los Guardian Angels
sí.
Es nacional, ¿verdad? Ellos dicen que son conocidos así en todo el país. Pero la cosa es que las veces que me he comunicado, que se han ellos comunicado con el departamento que trabajaba yo, especialmente en Los Ángeles, sí. No noté yo que hicieron lo que dijeron que iban a hacer. Ahora llegan a San Antonio, están haciendo lo mismo y bueno, tenemos que esperar y a ver qué es lo que van a hacer. Si hacen lo que dicen ellos que van a hacer, yo no sé si son vigilantes. Lo que van a hacer ellos es van a vigilar, van a estar listos para ayudar. Y si eso es la cosa, y si no hacen o cometen un crimen haciendo lo que van a hacer, está bien, está bien.
¿No cree usted que, digamos, puede ser una situación difícil si se les da a un grupo de jóvenes la oportunidad de guardar el orden, digamos, que ellos mismos puedan pasarse de lo que se supone pueden hacer? O sea, así cualquier persona puede hacer eso.
Pues claro, cualquier persona aquí en la ciudad o en el barrio pueden hacer eso. Es una cosa que
¿Tienen el derecho de establecerse ellos?
De establecerse ellos. Pero tienen que tener cuidado porque tienen que estar listos y tienen que saber la ley.
¿Y cómo es posible? Decían que podían ellos esposar, detener a una persona. ¿Tienen ellos esa responsabilidad?
Mire,
¿quién se las da?
Cada persona, cada ciudadano tiene el derecho de arrestar a otra persona. Si mira él un crimen que han cometido la gente que arrestan.
¿No cree usted que esto puede propiciar, digamos, problemas, abuso
claro,
de uno y otro?
Claro, esa es la cosa que es muy importante y lo que tenemos que tener pendiente.
¿Cómo ve usted la controversia entre los Ángeles Guardianes y la comunicación con los Brown Berets aquí en San Antonio? Digamos, ¿es justo que venga un grupo de personas de fuera de la ciudad y que se establezcan en estos grupos principalmente de residentes mexicoamericanos?
Bueno, la cosa que va a pasar es que si los Guardian Angels van a ser aceptados aquí en San Antonio. Eso va a ser importante. Sí. El conflicto que tuvieron o que tienen con los Brown Berets, yo creo que no se va a poner muy serio. Lo que va a pasar es que si van a llegar los Guardian Angels, la comunidad va a ser la que los va a aceptar.
¿Protegida
sí,
o con más?
O con problemas, ¿verdad?
Con problemas.
Pero estaba hablando yo también con los líderes de Brown Berets y usted se acuerda que en años pasados los Brown Berets tenían una imagen así medio como bueno, no muy bueno, ¿verdad? Pero parece que ya quieren hacer otra cosa, ya quieren ayudar, quieren trabajar con los jóvenes y quieren establecerse así como una organización que tiene interés con los problemas de la comunidad. Y si eso es la cosa, eso también es bueno.
Señor Rodríguez, en resumen, ¿qué opina de los Brown Berets, de la idea de esta agrupación?
Bueno, sí, otra vez, si quieren ayudar a la comunidad, bueno, yo estoy con ellos. Y también con los Guardian Angels, si van a ayudar la comunidad y si lo van a hacer sin
atropellarse
uno al otro y con problemas, pues
¿usted cree que los dos grupos podrían trabajar en el mismo sector, en el mismo sitio? Sería ideal.
Bueno, eso se tiene que esperar a ver, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Porque los Brown Berets tienen jovencitos.
Sí.
Y los Guardian Angels tienen ya van a trabajar con jóvenes un poquito más mayor o dicen que van a trabajar con ciudadanos ancianos.
Sí. Señor Rodríguez, por otra parte, cambiando de tema, creo que esa situación va a continuar en estos días venideros, ¿verdad? Digamos.
Dijeron los Guardian Angels que iban a llegar que el jueves,
entre estos días
o el sábado, y van a tomar aplicaciones.
Sí, le agradeceremos mucho a usted su participación en este programa para indicarnos qué se está haciendo. Yo quiero de una manera breve preguntarle, todos los casos son terribles, los casos de crimen, y en relación a lo más reciente en cuanto a la niña que era residente del sector del Dorado, ¿hay alguna novedad en este caso o se está investigando? ¿No se ha encontrado al culpable o a los culpables?
Todavía estamos investigando, todavía no hallamos el culpable o las gentes culpables, pero mientras que tengamos así algo que investigar, lo vamos a hacer.
¿La investigación está fuerte, está firme, señor Rodríguez?
Firme, sí. Lo que pasa con cosas así como estas es que tenemos que hablar con muchas gentes.
¿Y se está haciendo?
Y se está haciendo, todavía tenemos detectives que están investigando y es una cosa que va muy despacio, pero a mí se me hace que vamos a hallar.
¿Está usted involucrado personalmente, señor Rodríguez, en este caso?
No.
¿Por qué no?
Bueno, es porque es una cosa que se hace por investigadores. Y
¿usted decide qué tanto tiempo se le da a un caso como este?
No. Esto se hace con el jefe de los detectives, investigadores. Ellos revisan el tiempo, revisan a ver cuáles son la evidencia que tienen, y es una cosa que se tiene que ver y revisar cada 2 semanas, cada semana.
¿Y usted como jefe del departamento?
Bueno, ellos me dicen y me están dando reportes de lo que está pasando, sí, claro.
¿Y se ve que está un poco débil o floja la cosa? ¿Usted
podemos avisar que ponga un poquito más atención?
¿Y hasta ahorita usted está satisfecho cómo se está llevando la investigación?
Sí,
hasta el
satisfecho.
Sí. Señor Rodríguez, muchas gracias por hacernos el favor de acompañarnos. Hasta muy pronto. Gracias. Amigos.
Finally, this afternoon, you hear about it every single year. Thousands of college students graduate, and then all they do is spend months trying to find a job. Well, how often do you hear about an entire graduating class ready to start work the very next day? Linda Wasserman tells us now about just such a class. They're from the San Antonio Police Academy.
This is probably the only kind of graduating class where you'll see the boss right there asking important questions like, how tall are you, son?
6'5", sir. 6'5", huh? How much you weigh? 230. 230. How inside? What?
But for the cadets of 1985, their training and physical stamina is what got them through the academy, now ready to hit the streets of San Antonio. One of those cadets is 22-year-old Rodney Denton. He wasn't at the head of the class or anything, but he represents the determination of the whole class to make it through. This is Rodney's father, George Denton, who is also in law enforcement as an investigator with the DA's office. It's a proud day for him and his wife.
The first time I saw him in uniform, the revelation came to me that he's no longer a child anymore. He is a grown man now.
And Mrs. Denton, how do you feel about the fact that he's going to go out on the midnight patrol? And does that worry you any?
It does. Being a mother, it does. But I'm proud that he could be of service to the community.
Strange thing, Rodney Denton tried to be of service to the city a few months ago when he and a friend came upon a burglary in progress but couldn't catch the thieves. Are you at all apprehensive about coming on that scene again?
Apprehensive to the fact to keep myself safe. But I'm prepared. I've been through a long training and I'm prepared to do what I have to do. And I think next time I'll be able to handle the situation.
Linda Wasserman, News 4 San Antonio.
Since day
33 new San Antonio police officers are ready to hit the streets. The group graduated from the police academy today. Among the cadets, 5 women. They've undergone an intensive 24-week training covering everything from constitutional law to first aid. The new officers won't be cooling their heels any. They start duty tomorrow. Police officials may be keeping a close eye on this group of graduates after several of last year's cadets had problems once they got on the force.
Well, there are a lot of people gathered today over at the Police Academy, and you can describe the feelings of every one of them in one word: proud. It was the 1985 police cadet graduating class. Both male and female cadets successfully completed their training. They went through their final inspections today and took their oaths as proud spouses and parents looked on.
The first time I saw him in uniform, the revelation came to me that he's no longer a child anymore. He is a grown man now.
And Mrs. Denton, how do you feel about the fact that he's going to go out on the midnight patrol? And does that worry you any?
It does. Being a mother, it does. But I'm proud that he could be of service to the community.
It appears at least one cadet is carrying on what you could call a family tradition. Cadet Rodney Denton's father is an investigator in the district attorney's office. The new police officers are out on the street. Well, they may be out there right now.
They're needed.
Started, yeah, probably so.
Well, it's a great night to be out there. Away.
Great night.
A public hearing on a proposed police department substation is set for tomorrow. Some users of McAllister Park plan to be at the hearing to voice their disapproval of the project. Channel 5's Russell Rhodes reports.
The police department is proposing its new substation be built here in McAllister Park along Jones-Maltzberger. But some residents in the area who use the park don't want it here. They say having the substation would adversely affect the park and detract from recreation. The police want the substation here because it's a good location and highly visible. They also say it's easily accessible and close to populated areas. And as for destroying the park, the chief says that just won't happen.
If and when we put it up, we're going to try our very best to keep from knocking down all the trees. We're going to be building around it. And because the back end of that is really, there are really no trees back there. It's the front part facing the road, and we're going to attempt to have our islands there so we don't damage the trees and so forth.
But one resident would rather see this location along Starcrest become the new substation. Robert Walker says it's a better road and there is already a signal light in place. And most of all, it would not hurt the park. But he says the main reason the police won't consider it is because it's across the street from a solid waste transfer station.
And this is where the hierarchy of the police department is going to have their office, and they don't want to be across the street from the garbage trucks. They'd rather be over here on Jones-Maltzberger in a garden office type atmosphere at the expense of the public, and the residents nearby are going to have to put up with the added traffic.
Walker says between 75 and 100 people will be on hand for tomorrow's public hearing to voice their disapproval of the Jones-Maltzberger site. Meanwhile, the chief says he expects some opposition, but also expects people on hand to voice their approval of the project. Russell Rhodes, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
A San Antonio police officer was awarded the Certificate of Centurion Merit today. Officer Roland Ortiz was given the award for his efforts in the apprehension of 2 men who were later charged with aggravated robbery and serious bodily injury. Ortiz was on routine patrol when he saw the 2 men with several household items piled in the back of their car. Ortiz was able to determine who the items belonged to and sent an officer there. At the house, an 80-year-old woman was found. She had been badly beaten.
I don't know how many times this happens where the guys do run them out and save lives, rapes, robberies, murders. I would have rather have chased these guys out an hour before, so at least she would be at home, and I would have been feeling a lot better knowing that she was at home happy than.
In presenting the award today, Police Chief Charles Rodriguez said Officer Ortiz had shown an exceptional effort while doing his job.
Even though more than half the people who spoke were against the idea, City Council tonight is moving ahead with plans to put that police substation in McAllister Park. City reporter Kathy Teague is in the newsroom tonight with more. Kathy, what made Council approve the site?
Well, after close to 2 hours of discussions, Rick, the council was convinced that the park patrons would not suffer with a police substation in the park's southwest corner.
Parks and Recreation officials and police convinced the City Council that little would change in McAllister Park just because of a police substation.
The McAllister Station will in turn provide citizens of the area with state-of-the-art police services. Citizens of the area will be able to take their problems directly to the officers responsible for their resolution. Crime, disorder, and disruption of activities will be decreased by the police presence.
Police also argued that the site had to border Jones-Maltzberger Road, even though neighbors originally wanted it located off Starcrest. But those who participated on a task force to pick a site felt everyone gave a little.
Do you feel the process that was involved here was fair?
The police department never got their first choice. We certainly didn't get ours. Our first choice was on Starcrest and the sites that the other people have mentioned. However, I do feel that it is a reasonable compromise.
Soccer fields and playgrounds will not be affected, but some hiking trails will. City officials say to compensate, new trails will be built.
Since it is already city property and the plans are drawn up, Rick, construction will begin soon. Officials say the northeast substation should be completed by next August.
More questions continue to be raised this afternoon about the police shooting of a young East Side man over the weekend. It marks the 3rd police shooting in the last 4 months. The mayor, Henry Cisneros, says there will be a full investigation by police internal affairs, but at least one city councilman is already asking for an independent probe. With more on the story, we go to Dan Cuellar in our newsroom. Dan?
Alan, just a few moments ago, Mayor Henry Cisneros met with the parents of 24-year-old Michael Hoskins at their home. He wanted to let them know that there will be a full and thorough investigation into the incident, leaving no stone unturned. But he says at this point there is nothing to indicate San Antonio police acted wrongly.
Whenever an incident like this occurs in the city, it's my job to be informed and to get informed. And so I will. It's not a decision that suggests in any way, shape, or form even the remotest possibility that there was any wrongdoing on anyone's part.
Michael Haskins was shot and killed by San Antonio police after a high-speed chase early Saturday morning. The officers, Nadalyn Gonzalez and Patrolman Alan Hernandez, say they noticed Haskins was driving erratically and were attempting to stop him. They say Haskins pulled a pistol on them after crashing his car through a chain-link fence at an East Side residence. That's when they say they shot and killed him. Haskins had been wanted by police on an outstanding speeding ticket. He had been arrested twice before on charges that were later dropped. But Haskins' parents say their boy was no East Side hood and did not own a gun. They think there's something fishy going on. Today, Police Chief Rodriguez had little to say about the pending investigation by Internal Affairs.
We're still investigating. We're looking at all facets of it, and we're very concerned with, finding out actually what occurred.
Now, as is routine in any police shooting, both of the officers involved have been taken off the streets and placed on administrative duty until the Internal Affairs investigation is complete. In the meantime, the young man's parents have managed to solicit the help of East Side Councilman Joe Webb, who is now calling for an independent probe to be conducted by someone outside the SAPD. And we understand the mayor told the parents of the Mr. Haskins a few moments ago that he also feels that an independent probe may be necessary. Alan,
tell us about the mayor's feelings. Is he concerned that this is the third time in the past 4 months that police have shot and killed someone?
The mayor's definitely concerned and, in fact, very disturbed about this thing. But this is not to suggest, again, as he said earlier, that any wrongdoing was conducted by the San Antonio police. He feels, in fact, that San Antonio has a very good police department, able to restrain itself even in the most difficult situations. But he wants an investigation, as in any police shooting, to make sure the shooting was justified.
Okay, Dan, more at 6?
That's right.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Good afternoon. The FBI has joined the investigation into the death of Michael Haskins.
Haskins is the black man killed by 2 San Antonio police officers at 5 o'clock Saturday morning. The officers say the car Haskins was driving was weaving, and they say they tried to pull him over. The police reports say Haskins sped away and there was a short chase. The officers say Haskins reached for a gun. They fired. A loaded gun was found inside Haskins' car. Yesterday, Mayor Henry Cisneros said there were conflicting stories about what happened, and he asked the city manager to oversee the police investigation.
Chief Hoyak and Chief Rodriguez to go over the issue, and I've been assured, and I trust that that investigation will be 100% accurate.
City Manager Lou Fox said today that a preliminary autopsy report shows that Haskins was shot in the back and in the arm, and according to Fox, Haskins was intoxicated. The police are still looking for the owner of the gun, which was found in Haskins' car. So at this time, the police department is investigating the shooting, and the FBI is looking into the possibility of civil rights violations.
You know that yesterday the parents of Michael Haskins asked Mayor Cisneros to look into the death of their only son, and the mayor did meet with the family. And just after the meeting, the mayor asked the city manager to monitor the police department's investigation. Well, that prompted the leaders of the San Antonio Police Officers Association to accuse the mayor of grandstanding, and they're demanding an apology now. Ann Wheeler will have more on this story at 6 o'clock. District
Deborah Daniels is off this evening. Members of the San Antonio Police Officers Association are lashing out at Mayor Henry Cisneros tonight for what they call attempting grandstanding politics. This after last weekend's police shooting of an East Side man. Our city reporter Kathy Teague has been following the story today. And Kathy, you say the FBI is getting involved now?
Exactly. That's what we found out this morning from the city manager's office. They were not asked by the city to get involved, but they are going to be investigating it in an independent sort of way, Rick. In the meantime, City Manager Lou Fox will oversee the police department's investigation into what events led to the shooting death of Michael Ray Haskins.
There are still many unanswered questions about what really happened on F Street early Saturday morning. During a news conference, police and city officials say Michael Ray Haskins was in the car when he was shot by police. A loaded .38 caliber gun was recovered at the scene. However, its ownership is still not clear. Also, preliminary autopsy results show alcohol, a high level, was found in Haskins' blood. City Manager Lou Fox says there will be no independent investigation other than what the FBI does. However, his office will review the case.
I trust our police department to do a thorough and impartial job in this investigation.
Police Chief Charles Rodriguez says he's confident that the results of the investigation will show that officers acted properly, but it doesn't mean the public can't question the incident. In the meantime, members of the Police Association were questioning the actions of Mayor Henry Cisneros, saying his visit to the parents of Michael Haskins was politically motivated and irresponsible.
That's not fair. It's not fair to the young patrolmen and patrolwomen that were involved. They have families. Where was the mayor consoling their families, telling them that the city is behind these officers until such time as they're proven guilty?
Association lawyer Joe Skrull adds that Haskins is not the only victim. So are the police officers. Skrull says police who pull the trigger are treated like criminals and get no support from City Hall. But Mayor Cisneros disagrees and stands by yesterday's visit to the Haskins family, saying it's part of his job to hear all sides.
I think my record on police matters is strong. And I simply will not be characterized as any other way because I happen to extend a compassionate hand to 2 parents who are grieving over the loss of a son.
The matter is far from over. No one knows just how long it will take for the police department to complete its investigation. The autopsy results should be available in the next day or so, and officials say that should shed more light on what happened early Saturday morning, Rick.
Now, Kathy, what's the most confusing thing about this case at the moment?
So far, Police Chief Charles Rodriguez says that the hardest part for his department is trying to pin down what happened, what was Haskins doing between about 11 o'clock Friday night until about 5 o'clock Saturday morning when he was shot. They're trying to retrace, trying to find witnesses. They're hoping that they come forward in order to piece together what led to him speeding off, police following, and then the shooting.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you very much, Kathy. A San Antonio freelance photographer was given 2 30...
El alcalde Henry Cisneros dice que hay suficientes dudas para justificar que el gobierno municipal intervenga en la investigación de la muerte de Michael Haskins, quien recibió supuestamente disparos de bala de un policía. La policía afirma que Haskins estaba armado y que fue en defensa propia. Por otra parte, el administrador de la ciudad, Lou Fox, en frente del jefe de la policía, Charles Rodríguez, dijo que hasta el momento no termina la investigación que está haciendo el gobierno municipal y que el FBI también intervendrá en la investigación.
That the FBI has decided to review the incident. We welcome that. I think that's excellent for the city and for the department.
Por su parte, el jefe Rodríguez dice que no es alarmante que en 15 semanas haya habido 3 muertes por intercambio de fuego con policías en relación con tantos crímenes que se cometen en otras ciudades.
You'll see that we've had relatively few incidents involving firearms. Certainly nothing worse and nothing beyond what might be considered a problem in a big city.
Se espera que el alcalde Henry Cisneros realice una conferencia de prensa, pues se ha criticado su actitud con respecto al caso de Haskins, ya que visitó a los familiares de este y eso supuestamente dio pauta para responsabilizar a los policías de la muerte del joven de color sin que la investigación haya terminado.
Good afternoon, everyone. Some fireworks today from the police officers about the Michael Haskins case.
They are not happy with the mayor's involvement, but the police chief is taking it in stride this afternoon. Beverly Hinton is in our newsroom right now with more details on this. Bev?
Lori, the Police Association publicly blasted the mayor today for not trusting the department enough to conduct its own investigation. They say they're fed up with the way police are treated when there are problems, and they say they're not going to take it anymore.
The mayor first angered the Police Association when he visited Janet and Charles Haskins, the parents of Michael Haskins. He's the 24-year-old shot to death by 2 police officers last weekend. And when he asked city manager Lou Fox to start a city investigation of the incident because the Haskins saw discrepancies in reports of what happened, that was the last straw.
The mayor didn't even allow us the courtesy to finish our investigation and report back to him or the city manager. That's wrong. He jumped the gun. He did it for obvious political reasons. We all know that. We're not going to put up with it.
Flavia and Police Association attorney Joe Scuro said the mayor's visit was politically motivated and unfair to police who never get a fair shake when something goes wrong.
And the association feels it's high time that the live cops got treated with a little bit of deference and a little bit of respect and a little bit of support that the officers slain in the line of duty or injured in the line of duty get.
Now, City Manager Lou Fox told us today that he won't conduct a separate investigation. He's just going to review what the Homicide Department investigation comes up with. And the Chief of Police says that the city's review is welcome. Lori?
Well, has he seen any of these reports yet?
Yes, Lou Fox has seen reports, and he says a preliminary report shows that Haskins was highly intoxicated. The preliminary autopsy shows that Haskins was highly intoxicated. He also says that they're looking to determine the ownership of the gun. Also, the U.S. Attorney's Office asked the FBI to step into this to see if there were any civil rights violations involved in this case. And also the DA's office is conducting a routine check as well.
Beverly, as you said, the mayor's taking a lot of heat in this. What is he having to say today?
Well, the Police Association sent a letter to the mayor today asking for a public apology. They're very upset with him, and he says that he stands by what he's done. He doesn't feel that he's done anything wrong. The Police Association said he invited the media to the Haskins house when he went there yesterday. The mayor says that's not so. He didn't invite the media there. He feels that the Haskins had a right to be visited. He felt that they should be consoled in this time of trouble for them.
All right, Beverly, I know you'll have more coming up at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dan Cuellar, tonight the controversy of the police killing of a 24-year-old San Antonio man has turned into an absolute uproar.
It's been a day of rapid developments in the case. The city manager says a preliminary autopsy report shows Michael Haskins was shot in the back. The FBI now says it'll conduct an investigation to see if the victim's civil rights were violated following the high-speed chase that led to the weekend shooting. And in the midst of all this, the Police Association expressing outrage over the way the mayor and the media have handled the case. We have two reports beginning with Beverly Hinton.
The controversy has been smoldering since Saturday morning when 24-year-old Michael Haskins was shot to death after a brief chase. But it burst into flames after Mayor Henry Cisneros paid a visit to Janet and Charles Haskins, the parents of the victim. The Police Association is unhappy with that visit and with the mayor's request that City Manager Lou Fox conduct a city investigation based on discrepancies in reports of what happened that night. Discrepancies pointed out by the victim's parents.
The mayor didn't even allow us the courtesy to finish our investigation and report back to him or the city manager. That's wrong. He jumped the gun. He did it for obvious political reasons. We all know that. We're not going to put up with it.
The association feels the mayor's visit to Haskins was grandstanding politics, especially, it says, since he invited the media. It has sent a letter to the mayor demanding an apology for his behavior.
And the association feels it's high time that the live cops got treated with a little bit of deference and a little bit of respect and a little bit of support that the officers slain in the line of duty or injured in the line of duty get.
Earlier in the day, City Manager Lou Fox and Police Chief Charles Rodriguez told reporters that Fox would just review homicides investigations rather than conduct a separate one. Fox has already read some of the report.
As far as I'm concerned, a lot of the alleged inconsistencies have been resolved in my mind. In other words, what I have read so far has been consistent.
Police Chief Rodriguez said Fox's review is welcome and tells officers so far the case is clean.
At this point, to the extent that we've investigated, there's no question involved. However, we do have to be concerned with the fact that the citizens are concerned with the issue.
At this point, the FBI has stepped in at the U.S. Attorney's request to determine if there were any civil rights violations in the case, and the DA's office is making a routine check. Beverly Hinton, News 4, San Antonio.
I'm not going to get into an exchange that allows this matter to be heightened. I have no...
I'm Jibby Martinez. The mayor held back on any criticism of the letter from the Police Association, but he still defended himself, maintaining he did nothing that was wrong or in the interest of political grandstanding. Even though city staffers notified the media of Cisneros' visit to the Haskins home, the mayor says he didn't authorize the notification and wasn't expecting the media there. Cisneros points out it was the Haskins who asked for the meeting in the first place. The mayor also responded to the Police Association's criticism that he participated in the theatrics before checking his facts first. The mayor says the Haskins visit was one way to hear the facts.
You see, my job as mayor is not just to hear the facts of any one side and make a decision, but it is to try to hear from all voices to the maximum extent possible.
And besides, he says, it's in his place to offer compassion and that he would not change the way he has handled the controversy.
It may be that the police department acted completely correctly. I hope that's the case. That doesn't diminish the quality of people who have suffered this personal loss. They themselves deserve a moment of compassion.
Jibby Martinez, News 4, San Antonio.
Police have said the high-speed chase began when officers spotted Haskins' car driving erratically. And today, City Manager Lou Fox told reporters a preliminary autopsy shows Haskins was very intoxicated at the time of the shooting. As I said earlier, the FBI will investigate the incident. No word yet how long that will take.
The state of Texas is now...